We are not unaware of just how difficult referendum change is.
To not put this to a vote is to concede defeat.
Choking back their emotions, our political leaders acknowledged a difficult historic truth. In Australia, referendums are risky business.
Today, Australia decided no to the idea of becoming a republic.
Australians haven't passed a referendum since 1977. In fact, Australian voters have only approved 8 out of the 44 referendums put before them since Federation. One sprig of hope, our most successful referendum, which saw over 90% of Aussies vote yes, was also about Indigenous rights, namely whether they should be counted as part of the population.
I was 10 years old in 1967, so I spent the first 10 years of my life not being counted.
This time round, it's a whole new ballgame. The first referendum of the social media age, where misinformation and fake news are rampant. It's also the first referendum of any kind for Aussies under the age of 41.
It has been 24 years now since our last referendum in 1999. And that's the longest period we've gone in our history without holding one. Many Australians will have voted in the same-sex marriage survey a few years ago, but that was a bit different because it wasn't about a change to the Constitution.
So for those dipping their toe into the referendum waters for the first time, or for the first time in ages, here's a quick refresher. A referendum is a national vote on constitutional change. Any such tweak needs to be agreed on by the Australian people at the ballot box, with a yes or no answer to be proposed in principle, the details to be worked out later by Parliament. To pass, a referendum needs a double majority. That is, a majority of people and a majority of states voting in favour of the proposal. In this instance, Australians will be answering yes or no to this question. A proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Do you approve this proposed alteration?
The words have been selected very carefully to ensure that the body won't be able to tie the hands of the Parliament or the government. Instead, what the voice will be able to do is give advice to those bodies.
It won't take decision-making power away from government or Parliament, but it will help governments and parliaments make better decisions and achieve better outcomes. And we urgently need better outcomes.
It's precisely because a constitutional change is so difficult to enact that it's being proposed as the legal mechanism to enshrine Indigenous recognition. Successive governments won't be able to undo this without taking it back to the people.
Constitutional change provides extra security for the voice in a way that ordinary legislation just can't.
I'm not here to occupy the space. I'm here to change the country, changing our nation's constitution to recognise the fullness of our history.
People's lives have to improve, and we know from the evidence that what improves people's lives is when they get a say, and that's what this is about.
Yeah. Something that I learnt today is that we need a double majority for this vote to go through. So not only does there have to be the majority of the population, but the majority of states, which I didn't realise until we were talking about it today.
Yeah, it was interesting actually reflecting on, obviously the history of referendums doesn't necessarily point to a positive or a yes vote as a result of this one. But I was thinking about the same-sex marriage survey, which obviously wasn't binding and it wasn't a change to the Constitution. But when you looked at the electoral map, it was actually, I think they call it like a supermajority. So every state and territory voted yes, as well as a majority of people across the population. So there's actually recent example of the nation embracing change and kind of meeting those metrics, if you like.
And aren't you the only person at the desk who's actually voted in a referendum?
Yeah, which ages me somewhat.
I feel like I was old enough, but I can't quite remember 99.
Maybe it was like
it was a bit of a wild kind of year, if you get what I'm putting down, you know?
Maybe it was like Hing and you thought it was the Sunday.